The first thing I want to say to that is maybe he needs a better recruiter. He shouldn't be onboarding people.
It really makes me wonder, like, who is out there that wants to have so much control over this data?
A very common problem to have as a recruiter.
I see two sides to it. I think
recruiting ish. Web3, world class podcast. Let's get it, let's go. For topics of discussion you cannot get from another. Opportunities in Web3, we got you covered. Metaintro, been dope. Gotta thank you for the love and support that you give it, keep it coming. We going up in jet speeds, interviews with the crews, making moves, let's see. It's a brand new world of NFTs. Join in Recruiting-ish podcast, yes please. Join in Recruiting-ish podcast, yes please. Metaintro does not give financial advice. Information provided by Metaintro is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. Always do your own research on the companies that you apply to and the opportunities that you invest in.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Recruiting-ish podcast. We're here on episode 7. I'm here with the Metaintro team. We've got Nick and Lacey. Say what's up.
Hi, how's it going?
Howdy.
Nick, where are you? You have to say where you're live from.
We are coming at you live right now from Quantum, Miami. This is apparently an annual conference that they do. It was originally called something around the American Bitcoin something. And interesting turnout, interesting organizations here. A lot of DeFi, some Phantom folks. The talks are cool. And, you come to these things for the people, right? And, very wide gambit of everyone, kind of Web3 based. People are doing games, GameFi, you got DeFi, some random things thrown in there. So cool turnout. It's, of course, in the heart of crypto land here in Miami. So, some people are getting distracted too, but that's just the name of the game.
Nice. Well, everybody who's there, make sure to say hey. And spoiler alert, if you follow our TikTok, there are some exciting content clips coming with some tiny mics, but more to come on that.
Yes.
Absolutely. We are walking around and we're doing, we're doing TikToks. We don't have merch at this one. We've got plenty of merch for the coming conferences coming up. So, when you see us at the next one, be sure to, come find us.
There you go. Well, this episode is a little bit different. We're trying new formats. We're testing out new stuff. On the last episode, we had a call to action through LinkedIn, through Twitter, the Discord on hiring hurdles, specifically candidates going through the process right now. What's challenging? What are they frustrated with? We asked them to send us a voice recording, kind of give us some insight. So we'll be reviewing a few of those today. Appreciate everybody that sent those. We'll continue to do these. So we'll give you some info on how to do that going forward. But yeah, we'll kind of jump into it and hear what you guys are frustrated about, comment on it, hopefully give you some tips to navigate this kind of choppy water.
Yeah, I'm super excited to try out this format. I haven't seen this done before in terms of like getting audio, conversations with individuals about what's happening in their job search process. So I'm sure over the journey of us doing this, we're going to get some crazy comments, and people are super frustrated and want to dish on their entire process, and we'll get some more reserved ones. And I'm sure we'll get stuff all over the map, from community moderating related, employer related, developer related. So this is an interesting journey to go down trying this format.
For sure.
Ready?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see what we got.
Let's listen to what Crystal had to say here.
Hey Recruiting-ish team, thank you for having me on the show. I just wanted to call in and say that when I'm hiring and recruiting other people, I get so frustrated how everything is inconsistent. Everyone submitting the CVs, resumes, always seem to be a little different, and I would really love a little bit more consistency. Do you guys have any recommendations on how we can get some kind of template for them?
That sounds like
Interesting
a very common problem to have as a recruiter.
I see two sides to it. I think, there are standard templates, but there's not an exact science to it. I think like each person and then each skill set, recruiters or hiring managers might be looking for something different. And I kind of like the idea that your resume tells your story. So it should be a little different, right? Like if everybody just had the same, 4 bullets and this experience and education, it'd be hard to tell who stands out and who's putting a lot of effort into it. But there is, ways that you can still streamline that so that, again, there is some consistency. I know, Lacey, you guys were talking about kind of optimizing resumes. You probably got some really good tips on, just ways to at least have the core stuff, right?
Yeah, core stuff being experience, very clear bullet points underneath that experience. I feel like all of that stuff's super standard. So maybe what she's specifically speaking about is the issue specific to the crypto space. Because generally speaking, like a resume is a resume, and it's going to have all the same kind of, but I feel like her frustration is coming from, hey, this person says they're a smart contract developer and, my CTO is putting them through an assessment test and they can like barely get through a handful, their first paragraph of code. And maybe that's where the frustration is coming from, which is a total issue in the space right now, is like, how do you vet the quality of the candidate, the skill level of that candidate in a field that's completely new?
And
I
it's
feel
really
that.
one of the things. It's one of the things that we are pretty much solving here, right, at Metaintro, because none of this stuff is standardized at all. I mean, you know, typically with programming, engineering, and things like that, people get certifications. There's like really clear cut lines of how competent you are in certain things. And I mean, Alex, you probably see all the time on Twitter, like these people that are posting up job interviews for Web3 startups, and it's like, 10 years experience solidity. Like, there's just a massive mismatch there, right? Like, someone was unclear exactly on what the requirements are and what we're even hiring for. So, in Crystal's situation, I can imagine if you're just getting resumes from like every which direction, and whose fault is it, right? I don't know if it's one side or the other necessarily. The people might not be entirely sure what they're applying for, what the skill sets are, and then on the other end, as a Web3 organization, we're kind of open to people with different backgrounds and everything. We all haven't been here forever, right? So it's these things will get sorted out, and I like to think that we're helping kind of trailblaze fixing it.
Are you shamelessly plugging us right now? 'Cause that sounds what it is.
Sounded like a shill. A little bit of a shill.
Sounded like a shill. Was this one planted? No, it wasn't. For anybody that's listening. So,
but it's a good point. It's a good point, right? Like the verification piece, like you said, like how do you verify somebody knows Java or any of these coding languages, right? Like they put it on there and it's all over the place, weird formats. The product that you guys are building does help, right? Like it can shave down the verification piece of that. So maybe your resume can focus on what, projects you've built and what your interests are versus, just the mumbo jumbo that comes through on random resumes, right? It's a mix.
I wish I knew if she was a technical recruiter or a non-technical recruiter. So I feel like that would kind of help us navigate our answer on this. I think my answer to her message is, I don't know, we're all trying to solve for that same problem. Know that you're not alone. All recruiters.
Well, and I hate to be the guy because I hate writing cover letters, but like if you're looking for something specific, call it out in the job description, right? Like, hey, shoot us a bullet point, paragraph, whatever it is, on answers to these 3 questions, right? Like, I think that's fair. I think, most candidates would do that. And it gets you those quick answers where you may not have to filter through so much. So maybe if you can't fix the resume thing because everybody's going to do it different, you can at least ask for a cover letter or some specific vetting questions that everybody has to do.
There's an interesting, she's making me think of with this question. I saw on Twitter someone, to get their dream job as a product manager or designer at Spotify, then their resume looked like the Spotify interface. What do we think about that, right? I mean, obviously very unique, it stands out, but like the opposite of standard, right?
Yeah, I've seen that done. So I've 2 examples I could give to that really quickly. First, I just looked at somebody's resume who was applying to Netflix, and they made their entire resume like Netflix themed. The cover letter was themed. The logo was on it. It was a great cover letter and it stood out like right away. And then second, we had a developer apply to Metaintro once that made an entire landing page dedicated to Metaintro, the branding. And he was obviously a developer. And he was trying to get his like UI UX to stand out, which was amazing. We didn't end up hiring him. I don't know why, because that was like a super special application.
Yep. So we got Jordan left a message. Excited to hear this one.
Very cool. Let's see.
Hey, Recruiting-ish team. Thank you for doing this. An example of a frustration that I'm currently experiencing in my hiring journey would be when companies want you / really make you create a unique login just to be able to apply for a job with them. It just slows down the process, and it can be quite frustrating when a few of them say, create a brand new Workday account with me. Even though I have a Workday account with 3 other different companies, for some reason they can't all merge under one Workday account. So very appreciative and grateful for so far over 50% of the firms I've applied to that just have quick sheets that allow you to apply and hit submit or use the LinkedIn Easy Apply. But that's just my 2 cents. Really appreciate your thoughts.
Before we dive into that, can I tell you a horror story we had over the past 2 weeks with LinkedIn Apply?
Please.
Let's hear it.
Sidebar story time. One of our content creators, Richie, who is sharing his job search process in public on YouTube. He's looking for like a community management, social media, growth marketing role. And he's been vlogging this whole journey. So he goes to make his next video. He's so excited. He's going to record a video about this aptitude test that Binance sent him for a community mod role. I mean, what a great job opportunity. Like that's for a community mod, that's like the dream to work at one of these large companies. And he applied to the job using LinkedIn Apply. He and I are on a video call because we were going to try to like coach and go through the test together. And he starts it, realizes he can't screen record and he can't share it, so I hop off. I get a ping an hour later where he goes, all of my MetaMask, all of the token, all of the coins have been drained. And I was like, what? He goes, it was the job application. And I said, what? So he apparently had to download something to go through this aptitude test. However, the email that he got said like, Binance is interviewing you. I looked at the email. It looked legit. The only thing I didn't think to ask was, hey, what is that domain name? Where is that domain name coming from? Who's sending it? And we go to look at it and it's like total fraud. And so poor Richie is now out $8,000, probably scarred through like the job search process on Web3. He just posted the YouTube video about it. Not only did that happen, his computer got hacked, like Telegram messages were sent. I mean, it was like an absolute shit show. And so moral of this story is careful with LinkedIn Apply. Don't download anything. Always look at the email sender. And if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
They are very, very, very smart. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was
no,
crazy.
And I mean, I think that's like the funny thing that I think that shows, as well as Jordan's frustration, right, is like you forget how much information you're giving up at that application point, right? And I think for my workings on the HR side and recruiting side, like those logins are somewhat to protect you, right? So like each website, they're housing their data, but like where does that go, right? Like who has access to it? Who can see that? Are they sharing it? Are they selling it? I mean, you hear these horror stories of companies like LinkedIn farming resumes out or people's demographic information. And it's frustrating, right? Because like, what do you trust? If you can't trust LinkedIn, you got 7 Workday logins, can't keep track of all these, greenhouse applications. It's like, it's a pain, right? And like, you just like that, right? Like you could lose other stuff financially just by applying to a job,
Yep.
which nobody thinks about.
Isn't there a plugin for this? Like exactly for this issue, where it stores like all of your credentials, like down to your work experience that can autofill these applications? Like, doesn't that exist?
I haven't seen one, but if you know one, we might have to shout that out, because that would for sure save a ton of time. I mean,
Let's see.
yeah, I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, this totally exists. All right, Jordan, this is the answer. Google Chrome has an extension called Simplify. Autofill your job applications.
That could work.
just
It
find
sounds
that?
like kind of like, you know, the LinkedIn Easy Apply, right? Like one click takes all your info, you can save it down, save applications. But if not on LinkedIn, right, it's like anybody can build an application portal, you know, like who knows? You could go to binance.something.com and it could be totally fake, right? Like you definitely got to watch out for where you're applying and what information you're putting in. Because sometimes, I mean, I've had to put in last four of social, it's got your address, it's got your birth date, like they could take any of that and go places with it, so.
But I feel like even Simplify is not solving Jordan's issue, right? Because if we have, the ones that are in their screenshots here, those types of job applications are not the problem. It's when they have like their own apparatus, right? Like they're kind of, they have their own server side application management system. And I mean, I guess the question made me ask, like, whose fault is this? Right. And so it makes me wonder, I guess these big organizations, they like the data of their job applications, right? I don't think smaller companies wouldn't really think to like use that as a farm, like a lead farm. But, you know, if you're Nestle, some of these organizations, you know, you just have a ridiculous flow of people coming in to look for jobs. They see that as a whole separate honeypot aside from their customers. They've got a whole other pool of data here that's, who knows if it's monetizable or if they just, you know, want to keep it that way. And I feel like that's where like you end up with like the chain of 7 different Workday accounts. And it's like you got whatever company.workday.com, whatever company.workday.com. It really makes me wonder, like, who is out there that wants to have so much control over this data? And why does there not exist a decentralized version of it?
Yeah.
Is that another shill? Not sponsored by Simplify, by the way. We do not endorse it yet.
No, that's true. That is an interesting plugin, though.
Do you think that this part of the job application process will ever be made public on chain? Like, do you think that there's going to be somebody that builds this? And do you think even if someone were to build this, do you think employers would want to use this?
It's interesting when you have like these two-sided marketplaces, right? Because who's really more incentivized for this to work? And that's kind of like where it starts.
Yeah. Alex, would you use like an on-chain ATS system?
It's tough. It's the privacy thing, right? It's like privacy and access, I think, are the hardest parts. And even in just normal, you know, candidate application pools, it's hard to control that. I mean, we as recruiters mostly have access to it. HR has access to it, but sometimes there's hiring managers, sometimes there's contractors. I mean, it's hard to control it long term. On-chain could fix it in like a standardized way of, you know, Web3 companies' applications, you know, if everybody got together and said, here's what we look for, that could help. But I don't know. It's like, it's still that nascent part of blockchain, which is, you know, untold, unheard of, right? Like, I don't know if anybody's experimented with that. If anybody knows of anything, definitely shoot it to us, let us know so we can check it out. But we need something different, right? Like, I mean, you talk about how the resume itself is as old as time itself. The application has only gone from a written application to an online application, and now it's sometimes, you know, 20 pages. So how can you streamline it using, you know, blockchain or Web3 tech?
All right, on to the last one.
Yes, last but not least here, this was an interesting fellow. Let's hear what Adam had to say.
Hi, my name's Adam Weigold. I'm CEO of Decentric, and my problem with hiring people is the resumes very rarely match the actual person, and a lot of the people we hire are inconsistent.
Phony resumes, interesting one.
Hmm. That's interesting. The first thing I want to say to that is maybe he needs a better recruiter. They shouldn't be onboarding people. They shouldn't be onboarding people into the company unless they've gone through like, a thorough process. And if that's consistently happening, that's like a fundamental issue in their hiring process. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think especially it sounds like, he's probably startup, CEO, small team, maybe small amount of resources. Building the process before bringing somebody in, I think is helpful. And as well, like having somebody skilled in recruiting to help you out with that, whether that's a recruiter, somebody from HR, or even an agency, it takes it off your plate, but it's also someone that knows how to do all that. So if it's something you don't have experience with and you're having, struggles trying to figure it out, bring somebody in that does, and it'll save you time, money, bad hires, all that stuff. But as well, going back to the first conversation that we heard, maybe it's your, job posting. Maybe you need some more information on what you're looking for, specific ranges of experience or skill sets. Try referrals maybe instead of, just applicants, like trying to get some more nurtured leads versus, random people posting. Yeah, there could be a ton of stuff that's causing that.
I think it's funny that we all kind of went to user error on this one for a second, better process, better resume screening and everything. But I guess it did, he did kind of get to, it's interesting. I mean, resume not matching up with the person is, it seems like extreme. Like, it's not like you're getting a totally different person. But I don't know, I guess, how are we kind of combating that? Is it just a matter of, you got to get on that initial phone call and you can kind of pass a kind of like initial check that way? I've seen like interview processes where you kind of have to film a little video, answering some questions, maybe kind of just to make sure that there's, I don't know, I don't know if it's a response to bots or just people kind of squeaking through interview processes or what, but I don't know, he made me think in a couple different directions other than just user error.
Yeah. To me, it just sounds like he needs a tighter HR process. Maybe for him, what he needs to do is bring on like recruitment consultants or recruiters for hire type of situation to show him how to run a better recruitment process so that he can build one internally. Because maybe he's also, maybe again, like you just said, early stage startup, short on resources, how do I hire? And I think people forget that hiring is the first hard hurdle, the first highest hurdle you have to go over when you're building a startup is, great, I have the resources, now who do I hire? And how do I hire? Where do I hire? Like, all of those questions are the bottleneck into building. And so that's probably also what he's feeling. I'm totally assuming. I haven't looked up his company to see how big they are. But
it's probably fair, especially when you consider like they're not, these people aren't like HR professionals, right? I mean, he's probably doing programming or something totally different, right? Like to your point, it's perfect that like some people just shouldn't be the ones kind of doing that part of the job sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, from the candidate perspective, maybe what's going wrong there. It is in tech a thing, right? Like you hear about fake candidates, you hear about these call centers that are trying to get jobs and access into companies. Like it is real. I mean, you can check out, different videos on YouTube of recruiters doing interviews and, it looks all right, but there's like people in the background and nothing matches up and it's scripted. So it's definitely there. I mean, it's something you got to be careful of. And it just takes a little bit more vetting, right? Like if you are a smaller company, make the process a little bit harder, right? Like raise your bar and make it so that, hey, you do have to do a video interview a couple times. It's a challenge with remote. If you don't have them in person, it still can be fake until you get to day one and you see their experience. So it's definitely a problem. I think there's a couple different ways. But yeah, it's fixable for sure.
Well, this was interesting doing this format.
I'm excited to
I'm
see what
curious.
else.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what else kind of comes in. And I'm curious also, like looking back at these episodes in a year, how the problems change and how they're correlated with the market. Um, so, hopefully we eventually get, when the market picks back up and people are done doing their layoffs and everybody's hiring again, I'm curious if we'll get people calling in saying like, I need help negotiating this offer. What do I do?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We're starting with like the front end of the process, right? It sounds
Yeah.
like applications, some of the interview stuff. What are we thinking for the next kind of call in? We want to do some similar hurdles, or maybe we can focus on interviews. What do you guys
Yeah.
think?
Interviews would be great. I'd love to get some interview questions because I get them in our Discord all the time of like, hey, yeah, like, hey, how do I answer? Tell me about yourself in the interview, or how do I prepare for this interview that's coming up, for this developer job. So let's try to get in some answer questions for that. If you're listening and you want to send in an audio file, you can send in a quick audio file. Just make sure to introduce yourself, tell us what kind of job you're looking for, or what kind of role you're hiring for, and then what question you want answered. And you can send that to Nick, Nick, at metaintro.com. Metaintro spelled like metaintro. I think that was great today, guys.
For sure. No, appreciate everybody's help tuning in. I know it's stressful out there, but hang in there. The team here at Recruiting-ish, we're here to help. Let us know how we can do that. Reach out in any way. Follow us as well. Subscribe, comment, all the Discord and everything like that. But we'll catch you guys next week.
Catch you guys next week.